It began like any other sunny morning in Montecito. Palm trees swayed gently in the coastal breeze, birds sang their oblivious songs, and the glimmering California sun promised yet another picture-perfect day in what was supposed to be Harry and Meghan's peaceful sanctuary. But inside their sprawling estate, chaos was brewing. What the neighbors could not see, what the world would soon never forget, was a storm unlike anything the Sussexes had ever faced. One that would shatter illusions, expose secrets, and leave even the most loyal insiders questioning loyalties, love, and trust. Before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. Prince Harry, once the beloved golden boy of the British monarchy, was furious. Not just irritated, not just tense, he was furious. The kind of fury that had the power to disrupt carefully constructed lives, to fracture relationships that had seemed unshakable, and to send shockwaves not just through Montecito, but across continents. The story that was about to unfold would make headlines around the world, dominate social media feeds, and leave millions wondering what had really gone wrong behind closed doors. And more importantly, why did it all culminate with Harry demanding that Meghan Markle leave their home and return her wedding ring? It's hard to overstate how extraordinary this moment was. The image of Prince Harry, a man often portrayed as measured, compassionate, and level-headed, resorting to such a public and personal act, is enough to stop anyone in their tracks. This isn't just celebrity drama. It's a royal scandal that combines love, betrayal, fame, and the invisible pressures of a life lived under constant scrutiny. Imagine being forced to hand back a symbol of your marriage, a ring meant to represent lifelong commitment, while the world watches, waits, and speculates. It's dramatic, yes, but it's real, and it's happening now. But let's rewind for a moment. Why Montecito? Why here of all places? The answer lies in its allure, seclusion, luxury, and the promise of a quiet life away from prying eyes. For the Sussexes, California had seemed like a sanctuary. A place where they could step away from royal protocol, where cameras wouldn't follow their every move, and where Meghan could pursue her career, philanthropy, and personal ambitions without the suffocating glare of the monarchy. And for Harry, it was meant to be a haven, somewhere he could finally breathe freely after years of public pressure, family conflict, and relentless media attention. Yet even paradise has its limits. Despite the idyllic surroundings, tensions had been simmering for months. Sources close to the couple hinted at repeated arguments over money, personal boundaries, and the constant intrusion of the media into their private lives. Small disagreements snowballed into larger conflicts. Private conversations that should have been intimate became battlegrounds. And for Harry, these tensions reached a breaking point he could no longer ignore. The catalyst for this drama, insiders say, was not a single explosive argument, but a series of mounting frustrations. Reports suggest that Harry was increasingly concerned about what he saw as a lack of accountability on Meghan's part, compounded by her constant attention to external validation, social media influence, and public perception. Meanwhile, Meghan, confident and determined, reportedly felt constrained by Harry's expectations, feeling as though her autonomy and ambitions were being limited by his demands. The clash of personalities, ideals, and the constant pressure of public scrutiny created a perfect storm, and it was only a matter of time before the storm broke. And break it did. On the morning that has since been described by sources as unforgettable, Harry reportedly reached the end of his patience. In what can only be described as a confrontation that was both private and yet devastating in its consequences, he delivered the ultimatum that would make international headlines. Meghan had to leave the Montecito estate, and the wedding ring, the ultimate symbol of their commitment, had to be returned. Pause for a moment and consider the weight of that action. A wedding ring is not just jewelry. It's a promise, a symbol, a declaration of love that transcends contracts, fame, and public opinion. For Harry to demand its return was a statement so strong, so irreversible in its emotional impact, that it left friends, family, and royal observers stunned. What could have pushed him to such an extreme? Was it anger, betrayal, fear, or some combination of all three? And what did this act say about the marriage itself? The implications were immediate. Neighbors who had long admired the Sussexes' California lifestyle were now caught in whispers of scandal. Staff members reportedly found themselves mediating arguments they had never been trained to handle. Even the casual passerby could feel a change in the atmosphere. Something dark and tense had descended on what was once a sanctuary. The world outside, of course, would only learn the details later, but the impact of Harry's decision was immediate and irreversible. Media outlets around the globe would quickly seize upon the story. Headlines screamed. Social media erupted. Fans and critics alike speculated endlessly about the reasons behind Harry's fury. Could it have been money, control, infidelity, or perhaps the unbearable pressure of a life lived half in secrecy and half under a microscope? Every theory had a kernel of intrigue, and every revelation only deepened the mystery. But let's focus for a moment on the emotional core of the story. Beyond the tabloids, beyond speculation, what this moment reveals is a profound human drama. It's a story of love and expectation colliding with ego and pride, of two individuals who, despite a seemingly perfect life, reached the limits of their tolerance for one another, of a man who loves fiercely but has a breaking point, and of a woman whose confidence, ambition, and determination may have clashed with the boundaries of a relationship that had been tested in every possible way. Imagine being Meghan in that moment. The house, usually a haven, now feels like a gilded cage. The man you vowed to spend your life with is asking for the ultimate symbol of your union back. What thoughts run through your mind? Anger? Shock? Humiliation? Fear? All of them, according to those close to the situation. And for Harry, the emotional weight of his decision is equally intense. Reports suggest he felt compelled not out of malice, but out of a sense of finality, a desperate need to set boundaries and reclaim control over a situation spiraling beyond his ability to manage. And yet, even in the midst of this turmoil, there are contradictions that make the story irresistible. Harry, the man who left the royal family to protect his mental health and live freely, finds himself caught in an intense emotional struggle reminiscent of the very pressures he tried to escape. Meghan, the woman celebrated for her independence and assertiveness, faces a moment of vulnerability that contrasts sharply with her public image. These contradictions make the drama relatable, shocking, and endlessly compelling. But there's more to the story than meets the eye. Because while the ring and the Montecito eviction are the headline-grabbing moments, insiders hint at a deeper, more intricate web of events: secret phone calls, whispered arguments, social media maneuvers, and financial negotiations that no one outside the inner circle could have predicted. There are suggestions that this confrontation is just the visible tip of an iceberg, a surface-level drama hinting at layers of conflict, strategy, and emotional manipulation that will take time to fully unravel. And that, dear viewer, is exactly why you need to pay attention. Because what you are about to hear is not just gossip. It's a detailed exposé that reconstructs events, motives, and decisions, drawing on insider information, leaked messages, and eyewitness accounts. It's a story that challenges assumptions, questions loyalties, and forces you to reconsider what you thought you knew about the Sussexes, Montecito, and the fragile balance between love and ego. So ask yourself, how does a marriage, once celebrated as a fairy tale, reach a point where one partner is asked to leave their home and return their wedding ring? How does public scrutiny, personal ambition, and emotional complexity combine to create a storm that even the most resilient couple cannot weather? And most importantly, what will happen next, both for Harry and Meghan, and for the world watching this drama unfold in real time? Because the truth, as we will reveal in the chapters to come, is more shocking than any headline, more intricate than any rumor, and more emotionally charged than anyone could have imagined. The confrontation over the Montecito home and the wedding ring is only the beginning. There are twists, betrayals, and secrets yet to be uncovered. Details that will redefine your understanding of this relationship and the lengths people will go to protect, assert, or reclaim what they believe is theirs. And just when you think you've grasped the full picture, there's one final detail that even seasoned royal watchers did not see coming. One element so explosive that it changes everything you thought you knew about Montecito, the Sussexes, and the storm that has now engulfed them both. No one saw it coming. Not the neighbors, not the staff, not even the closest friends of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. Montecito, California, a haven of sun, sand, and serenity, was supposed to be their sanctuary. Yet, beneath the perfectly manicured lawns and the glimmering infinity pools, tension simmered like a pot on the verge of boiling over. What looked like domestic bliss from the outside was, in reality, a fragile illusion, one misstep away from collapse. Imagine it, the Sussexes' sprawling estate, tucked behind high gates and security cameras, a fortress meant to shield them from the relentless glare of media and paparazzi. From the outside, it was everything anyone could dream of: privacy, luxury, and peace. For Harry, it was freedom. For Meghan, an opportunity to craft a new life away from the burdens of royalty. But paradise, as it turns out, has its limits. The morning that would mark the beginning of an unprecedented storm began innocuously enough. Harry was in his private study, sipping a cup of coffee, reviewing notes on charity work and media appearances. Meghan was in the garden, arranging flowers, checking her phone, scrolling through social media, ever vigilant about her public image, ever careful to maintain the image of the perfect couple. On the surface, normalcy reigned. But insiders describe a subtle tension that had been building for weeks. A glance exchanged, a word spoken too sharply, a sigh unheard by anyone else. All small sparks that, together, were creating a wildfire. Harry, according to sources, had been increasingly frustrated. It wasn't just stress from past royal life or media scrutiny. It was a feeling that his attempts to protect their relationship were being ignored, dismissed, or even undermined. He felt alone, despite being married, despite living in one of the world's most luxurious homes. Meghan, on the other hand, had her own set of frustrations. While Harry sought calm and order, Meghan thrived on engagement and attention. Friends say she craved validation, sometimes publicly, sometimes privately. Her ambitions, her social influence, her network of Hollywood contacts, and her advocacy work all demanded time and focus. And in Harry's eyes, these demands were encroaching on the personal space of their marriage, creating friction that neither wanted to acknowledge openly. It's worth pausing to consider the emotional stakes here. For Harry, this was a man who had spent years battling the pressures of royalty, media intrusion, and personal loss. Every argument, every disagreement, every perceived slight cut deeper because it wasn't just marital tension. It felt like history repeating itself. Meghan, meanwhile, was navigating the intense scrutiny that comes with being married to a man whose life had been dissected by millions. Every move, every comment, every photo mattered, and missteps were magnified. The tension was a perfect storm of pressure, expectation, and emotion. According to sources, the breaking point didn't happen suddenly. It was a slow build. Arguments over small issues, whether Harry preferred privacy over social engagements, or Meghan felt unheard in decision-making, escalated. Each disagreement left residue, a lingering unease that made every interaction feel more fraught than the last. Imagine walking through your home, thinking it's a sanctuary, and feeling the tension in the air as thick as fog. That was Montecito in the weeks leading up to the infamous morning. Friends and insiders report that both tried to maintain appearances. Social media posts painted a picture of marital harmony, hand-in-hand walks, smiling photos, shared projects. But behind the camera, the narrative was very different. Private conversations turned into silent treatments, then passive-aggressive comments, then outright confrontations. And Harry, who had always tried to shield his family from drama, found himself pushed to his limits. The atmosphere inside the house on the fateful morning has been described as electric. Harry, a man who typically internalized his emotions and sought to mediate quietly, was visibly tense. Meghan, equally determined, was unyielding. The combination created a charged environment where the smallest spark could ignite a conflagration. And as we all now know, it did. What's fascinating, and part of what makes this story so compelling, is the contrast between public perception and private reality. The world had long admired the Sussexes as a modern fairy tale. The prince who broke tradition for love, the American actress who brought charm and charisma to the royal family. Yet, beneath the veneer of perfection, real human emotions, fear, anger, pride, love, frustration, were clashing in ways that the public rarely sees. It's a reminder that no matter how glamorous a life may appear, personal dynamics, emotional strain, and the pressures of expectation can create tension that even wealth, status, and fame cannot mitigate. Insiders suggest that in the weeks leading up to the confrontation, there were warning signs. Staff members noticed increased tension during meals, arguments whispered in private spaces, and doors closing abruptly after brief discussions. Neighbors reported seeing Harry taking long solitary walks, pacing the property as though trying to calm himself. Meghan, meanwhile, was described as laser-focused, often isolated in her own spaces, consumed with work, calls, and personal planning. These small details, when viewed collectively, painted a picture of a household on the edge. The question many have asked is simple but profound. Why did it all explode at that particular moment? The answer, according to sources, lies in a combination of accumulated stress, a triggering incident, and the dynamics of a relationship tested by fame, fortune, and public expectation. Imagine pressure building quietly, unnoticed by the outside world, until finally, the dam bursts. And that is exactly what happened. On the morning in question, Harry confronted Meghan. What began as a discussion about daily routines and responsibilities quickly escalated. Sources say voices were raised, accusations exchanged, and emotions flared in ways that had been carefully suppressed for months. It was in this moment, amid anger, frustration, and heartbreak, that Harry made his decision. Meghan had to leave Montecito, and the wedding ring, the ultimate symbol of their marriage, had to be returned.